In November 2023, Times Magazine posted that in the United States, women live 6 years more on average than men. And this pattern actually repeats itself pretty much all around the globe. So after reading it, I asked myself, why is this the case? Why do women tend to live longer? And why is this pattern so ubiquitous all around the world? And lastly, what can we learn longevity-wise from women? Hi guys, my name is Polina, if this is your first time on my channel, and let's dive into this perplexing statistics to see what we can learn from it. So in the first part of the video, we will focus on why women live longer than men. And the first topic that is worth touching on is, of course, biological differences. When researching information for this video, I came across this article from Scientific American that was very interesting for me to read, and it was claiming that women have better repair systems in place to ensure that their organism maintains good health. And this is pretty much needed for reproductive purposes because we all have this evolutionary urge to reproduce, and women are pre-programmed to carry the child and breastfeed the child, so they have a lot of physical responsibility. So this might be one of the reasons why women have this increased longevity compared to men. And there are also studies that claim that estrogen supports longevity, while high testosterone can actually reduce lifespan of man. To be honest guys, in this video, while it was important to touch on biological differences, I don't want to dwell on them for too long because they are something that we cannot change, and it is much more worthwhile to spend time contemplating something that we definitely can change. So one of the psychological reasons why men tend to live shorter lives is that men are conditioned to be strong. And I know it sounds very paradoxical. Society is raising man to be very strong, very resilient, very impenetrable, someone who is just absolutely invincible. So I feel like men have a lot of pressure to put up this strong man facade, even though sometimes they might be silently suffering on the inside and they might not have a single person to share it with. A long time ago, I made a video about gender differences in loneliness. And during that video, I was talking about how male loneliness was stemming from this exact reason, that they were too afraid to open up. They were too afraid to be vulnerable with someone else. They were afraid to lose their strong man appearance. And this can be more prominent in traditional societies than Western societies. So almost all over the world, men tend to die by suicide more frequently than women. And this might be happening partially due to men missing out on true emotional connections because they're afraid of exposing their vulnerabilities. This can also be linked to higher rates of substance abuse among men as compared to women, because it might be their method of self-medicating. Another behavioral aspect of why women tend to live longer is that women on average maintain healthier habits than men do. This might be tied to the biological reason I mentioned earlier, because we all have the evolutionary urge to reproduce, and women have to maintain healthier bodies in order to do that. Maybe subconsciously women also want to maintain healthier habits. It's like, again, just a subconscious urge that we are pre-programmed to do that. But whatever the cause is, this still stands true. Women have healthier habits than men on average. Look at this quote that I found on Harvard website. In most cases, women eat a healthier diet than men. In a Massachusetts survey, for example, women were about 50% more likely than men to meet the goal of eating at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. The same article talks about how men tend to engage in risky behavior more than women. So I think women have like a stronger self-preservation mechanism maybe. And then men also engage in self-destructive behavior more than women do, such as like alcohol and substance abuse. The last reason for female longevity that I'm going to mention in this video is actually purely speculative. I haven't researched any articles in relationship to what I'm about to say. But last week I was talking to my dad about this gap in longevity, and I was curious to hear his perspective on it. And my dad was mentioning that it might be the case that it is harder to self-realize for men than it is for women. Pretty much women have more avenues for self-realization in life than men do. Women can self-actualize through career or through raising children. For example, being a full-time mother is a very demanding job, and women can find self-realization through that and be fulfilled in life. But then men probably tend to be more competitive and they want to self-realize through their career, because just being a parent might simply not be enough for them, just because they don't go through this physical labor of bringing a child into the world, and then they don't have the same physical connection with the child. So it might be more difficult for a man to realize himself. The only finding I'm going to mention that might support my speculative reasoning is that in upper socioeconomic classes, the gap in longevity tends to be smaller. So it might be from the fact that men in those classes feel like they have accomplished a lot in life, and so they might be feeling less depressed, or maybe not depressed at all. But overall, psychology plays a very important part in a person's life, and we know that stress can definitely contribute to a decreased lifespan. So in the second part of this video, I would love to move on to more applicable concepts, like what can we learn from long-living women, what can we apply in our own lives, how can we ensure that we live long and healthy and happy. I am very much a proponent of nature x nurture interaction model, which means that even if we do have certain genes, we can control them based on how we behave, how our lifestyle looks like, because this model proposes that we have a lot of control. And I really like that, instead of being like, oh, we cannot do anything about it. I believe there's always something you can do in every single situation. So that's why I'm making the second portion of the video. Bessie Cooper was one of the oldest living women, and I read about her on James Clear's website. And she died at 116 years old. When she was being interviewed by the Guinness Book of World Records, she pretty much shared 2 advices on how she reached such an old age. And those 2 simple advices were, I mind my own business and I don't eat junk food. Based on Bessie Cooper's advice, the first concept is to reduce stress. Stress is one of the biggest killers in the modern society. Stress is linked to premature mortality and heart disease and cancer and diabetes. Stress is linked to everything. That's why I said that psychology is very, very important. How we think is very important. How we perceive the world is very important. So just implementing habits that will help you reduce stress is one of the key ideas from the second part of this video. The second concept from Bessie Cooper's advice is to watch your diet and watch what you eat, and make sure that you eat whole foods. It's great to eat a lot of fiber, a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, and abstain from junk food, abstain from prepackaged foods, processed foods, because it is important what we fuel our body with. And even though people understand it in theory, sometimes they, for some reason, don't apply it to their life, or they think that, oh, if I eat something unhealthy today, I will correct it tomorrow, but then tomorrow like never comes, and then they keep eating junk food on a daily basis. And the most important thing is what we do consistently. What we do on a daily basis ultimately defines our lives. The third advice is to sleep a lot. It is also supported by science. I read this book by Matthew Walker, and it's named Why We Sleep. It's an amazing book. I highly recommend it. But yeah, if we undersleep, if we sleep deprive ourselves, that definitely has an effect on our longevity. It is also the same advice that Sergey Young gives in his book on longevity as well. The fourth concept is to move, and move a lot, to prevent sedentary lifestyle. And I know that everything I'm saying in this video is kind of like basic, but I think it's just worth reiterating, because people, again, like hear it a lot, but then they don't implement this knowledge into their lives on a consistent basis. So that's why pretty much a lot of longevity advices hinge on the same concepts, but sometimes you need to hear something 100 times before you finally take the first step. Like, I look at both of my grandmothers, and they move all the time, and they try to maintain healthy eating habits all the time as well. The fifth concept is to foster connection, to other human beings. It's very, very important to feel like you have your people. There is this quote from Scientific American article that I mentioned earlier. Married men tend to live many years longer than single men, whereas married women live only a little bit longer than single women. Both of them live longer though, and women in general can form emotional connections more easily, so maybe that's why even single women form emotional connections with like someone else besides their non-existing husband. Concept number 6 is it's very important to be of service. That can definitely prolong a person's life because it's very important for us to feel needed, to feel like we are benefiting someone else besides ourselves. It might be your family, it might be your friends, it might be honestly anyone or anything, even a plant, or even having a pet can pretty much make you feel that you have someone who is relying on you, like another living creature that fully depends on you. And this can increase a person's longevity because a person can subconsciously understand that they have responsibilities that they cannot abandon, that they are needed in this world, they are needed in this space to make sure that somebody else feels good or somebody else survives. Concept number 7 is being resilient and enthusiastic for life at any age. I think this is also very important because this is about your mindset and how energetically and enthusiastically you're approaching life. It's almost like a placebo effect. If you install this lens of enthusiasm and you look at the world through this lens, you might just want to stick around for longer, and that might also boost your longevity. An example that I gave in my previous video was Iris Apfel, who I absolutely admire. She actually signed a contract with a modeling agency, IMG, at the age of 97. So honestly, it's like never too late for anything. And the last concept that I would like to mention is employing holistic approach. It is important to both be well physically and be well mentally and make sure it's a reinforcing cycle. Your mind positively reinforces your body, and your body, when you feed it well, when you move it, when you sleep enough, then your body can reinforce your mind. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. The list of reasons that I mentioned in this video is non-exhaustive. Of course, there are more reasons why women tend to live longer than men, and there are more concepts on how to increase longevity as well. And the last thing I want to mention is that the key to everything that I said is consistency. What you do on a daily basis matters. That's what your life is comprised of. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.